So I'm Kevin.
And I'm Laura.
And this is our 5-month-old baby, Ava. We were referred here. We'd had previous treatment with a different IVF clinic, and then we were referred here on the back of Laura getting a cancer diagnosis in 2020. So they did fertility preservation, so they managed to freeze our little embryos here. And then post all of that is when we then restarted, because the embryos were frozen here. We come back here. And actually I thought that it was a really, really good experience. I thought the people here were really great.
Yeah, I think they obviously knew that I'd just been diagnosed with cancer, and they dealt with us both very well, considering they knew what we were going through and potentially what my diagnosis would mean going forward. So yeah, very professionally, very
empathetic, very sensitive.
Because I suppose our situation was slightly different to others that were having egg collection at the same time. So yeah, I think our early experiences were very positive, weren't they, from here?
Yeah, definitely. I'll let you start that one.
It changed our life completely. You don't ever think you're going to be in that situation. It happens to other people, it doesn't happen to you. So I think at that time, you don't really know what to think. It's kind of like it isn't real. And then you're faced with what life is going forward and how different life is going to be, and I suppose if you're even going to be here to enjoy life. So yeah, it did change our plans. It makes you very grateful for life. It makes you grateful for everything we've got. And it makes you live life. Like, you can't take money with you, and you just got to live every day as though it's your last. You've got to enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, I think that at the start of it was shock, obviously. And then it was, what's the treatment? Laura's health, let's get that sorted. That's the most important thing to us. Nothing else mattered. And then at the back end of it, it was just kind of, we kind of said, we don't want to have any regrets. So whatever is available to us, if we've got to travel, whether it's cost or whatever, let's do that. Let's never have a regret about trying something. Even if it doesn't add any value, we can say we tried it. So it's kind of just brought in that, like, we're not going to regret anything we do. We're going to do it, and we're just going to get through it. And then we'll deal with the aftermath at the end of it.
We never wanted to get to the end and say, what if we'd have done that? What if we'd done this? So by doing everything that was thrown at us, you could never regret anything that we looked back on. Like everything we did, like we don't regret the freezing the embryos, even though it was out of sequence and probably wasn't the best amount we would have got. But I don't regret doing what we did. Like, we got 3 amazing embryos, so yeah, it was, we just have to take everything as we get it and do everything that was suggested to us.
I think, as I said, like we always had this, it's not a mantra, but kind of this ethos, we don't want to have any regrets. We never wanted to get to a point in life where we go, we wish we'd done that. So we said, if there's always a chance, even if it's a small chance, let's try it. Like, what we got to lose, essentially. We didn't have children, so by trying and going back to fertility treatment, we had nothing to lose. As long as the doctors were okay with the treatment plan post cancer, we had nothing to lose. And I know Laura had this mindset that she always obviously wanted to make me a dad and make her parents grandparents. It's something that you'd always spoken about quite a lot.
Yeah, I always said that after treatment, that was one of my biggest goals in life. Like, I would die happy if I could make him a dad and make my mum and dad grandparents. So that was always a goal for me.
And I think where we tried previously before, we knew what was entailed with IVF. So we kind of knew the process, we had a good understanding of it. And I think knowing Laura's mental and physical resilience that she's got, I knew there was a chance that we could cope with going through it, whatever the outcome would be. Lucky enough, we did choose, and we've got Ava, which
I think going through like the cancer and all that, the treatment and that, you kind of think, well, nothing can be worse than that. although when we did the failed attempts previously, it was heartbreaking, and it was, but we hadn't felt heartbreak like that before. And then when you are hit with a cancer diagnosis, it's a different level, because it is your life that's at stake, and there's so much more that can be lost from that. So I think going into IVF again, our mindset was like, well, we've been through cancer, we can deal with it mentally. We know we're both quite strong. Our relationship is very strong. We knew we could get through any hurdles that were thrown our way. So I think that kind of gave us the hope, didn't it, that, well, why not? Let's just give it a go and see what happens. Like, we're strong enough to get through this, regardless of the outcome. So I think that's what kind of spurred us on, didn't it?
I mean, we had a fallback plan of loads more holidays, but we'll take this over that all day long. I think we kind of had no choice on this one. We'd previously had fresh transfer on our very, very first attempt. But this one, due to being, Ava was frozen back in 2020 during COVID, started Laura's treatment, and as alluded to, the fact that she was frozen on the day Laura started her chemotherapy kind of feels like a succinct little niche point for us, that something we'll always think about. But we didn't have a choice. Like, Laura, you've got no ability to create new embryos now because of the chemotherapy. So it was kind of our only choice anyway. But I think it probably would have been one of the choices that we would have made irrespective of it. I think because of conscious of how much sort of drugs and treatment Laura's had pumped into her body over the last 8 years, that was probably the least invasive method, because if we'd gone for egg collection again, it would have been more hormones, more treatments, more tests. So it was, one, our only choice, but two, probably the least invasive and best for your body and your health.
But then there was the flip side of that, was that we have only got 3 embryos here, and by using one, and if it doesn't work, you would then only have 2. So we were kind of at a point where, yes, we did want to try it ourselves, but how many attempts do you try yourself before you then go, actually, we need to look at the surrogacy route? Because if I can't carry a baby, we've only got 2 other attempts. So do we give both of those to a surrogate, or do I have another attempt and then we only leave 1 for a surrogate? So it's that mental, I suppose, that emotional attachment is, do I use the embryo myself? Do I risk it, thinking that I probably wouldn't be able to carry? But then you've also got the risk of, what if it doesn't defrost on the day? Then that's just gone. So I think there's a lot of mixed emotions. Like, at the minute they're just on ice, so they're safe. But as soon as you start to defrost, potentially that could not work. And then you've lost one. And then that's another one that's just gone.
I think we're just sort of reflecting as well, the reassurance we got from the consultations, kind of saying we think this is the safest and best route, I think helped. Like the support from our consultant through that process, and just saying that these are risk factors, however, it's minimal, and this is what we think is the best route for you and your health. So I think that definitely helped us decide, didn't it? Yeah.
I think there was a lot of conversations, wasn't there, as to whether the consultant thought that I could possibly carry. And I think she gave us hope, didn't she? Because we walked into the first appointment thinking they were going to turn around and say, no, it's not possible for us to put an embryo in you, knowing what your body's been through. So we kind of had that surrogacy route in the back of our mind, didn't we? But she was very confident, wasn't she, in that first appointment? No, we've got patients that have been in your position. It is doable. Like, we can just tweak different regimes to see what works best for you. So I think that did give us that confidence, didn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
When we first come up here, to know that, it is possible, but just with a little bit of tweaking here and there.
I remember our very, very first attempt that didn't work, and I remember when they did the transfer, you see this tiny little flash white light on the screen. I still remember that so vividly, and I remember the joy walking out that day, compounded by 6 days later when it hadn't worked. The sort of the sorrow and the sadness. So I think that was a real big thing for me to kind of go, actually, there's the possibility we can have kids. Then obviously, the setbacks of being told, Laura, you've got cancer, to being to the point where Laura's ringing the bell to say that her treatment is done and she's all clear, kind of. So again, just the peaks and the troughs, but ultimately no feeling is ever going to top the moment that they held her up and said, "Here's your baby." And I got to tell Laura that we'd had a daughter, because we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. We were convinced she was a boy, absolutely convinced. And they held her up, and then I got to say to Laura, "It's a girl." That feeling, I don't think it's ever going to be topped, ever.
Oh my God. For me, it was that moment, and then I remember looking at the ceiling and listening for that first little cry, because I suppose with the cesarean you don't see a lot of what's going on. You hear everything, and your senses for sound are heightened.
Yeah.
And I remember just listening, like, please, just cry, just cry. But yeah, we were totally convinced she was a boy. So didn't even think for a second it would be a girl. So I think that little bit of shock set in then, but yeah, I think that is definitely the most powerful moment. That she was here and she was safe. And I think that outbeats anything, doesn't it? Yeah.
It kind of culminated our 8-year journey through trial and tribulation to having a miracle in our arms, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got a long road ahead. Like, the anxieties and the worry is never going to stop when you've got a little one. But that, for me, that just outweighs everything. It was all worthwhile for that hearing her little cry and finally being here safe. Yeah.
We spoke about this, and I said it's difficult because I don't know if there's much I would change, because, as I said, we kind of went like no regrets, and everything was available to us. Every option that we had, we tried, we ran through. The only thing I think I would do differently, and I'd encourage us to do differently back then, was when we very first started our IVF journey, is I would research more around clinics, because we didn't look at Bournehall. We found a different one, and that was based on, we knew it was expensive, and we found one that was less expensive. Although they were great, it didn't work. Could have been fate because of what was going to happen. But I think probably just, if we'd looked at this place, I think we probably would have gone, do you know what, we've heard about Bournehall, we've now looked at it, we would go there. So that would be the only thing, is maybe just a bit more research into clinics. And the backstory of this place, with, let's say, the pioneers of IVF and all that sort of stuff, it would have felt very apt, I think, going, that's where we're going to go.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And as much as a cancer diagnosis is not the best thing to be dealt with, we wouldn't have her if it wasn't for that, because she was only frozen because I was diagnosed. So we might have had another baby, but it wouldn't be Ava. So for me, everything happens for a reason, and I was diagnosed with cancer for a reason. And we said this, didn't we? Like, I was having IVF treatment at the time. If we'd have carried on and I'd ignored my lump, potentially we might have been pregnant, and I would have had to then terminate that pregnancy because my life would have been at risk. So finding that lump at that point, I think it happened for a reason. And then she was frozen for that reason. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I do believe everything happens for a reason. We would have maybe had another baby, which we would have loved exactly the same, but that's not Ava. Ava's her own little personality. She's a little darling, and we wouldn't have her if it wasn't for that moment. So yeah, it's things happen for a reason. Yeah. So I wouldn't change anything, as much as our life, as we've gone through more in our life than most couples go through in their whole entire life.
I think just what I would say is I would probably be a bit less blasé, because when you told me you'd found a lump, I was like, it's probably just a cyst.
It's
and you
nothing.
said, I'm going to get it checked, and I was like, it's fine, but it'll be all right. And I think maybe just taking your health a bit more seriously. Would be actually probably something I'd say, because I was just very much, no, it's fine, it's nothing, and then actually it was. So
because a lot of people do just palm things off. If you have an ache and a pain, or like you say, with a mole, you you see it and you don't necessarily think it is changed. I think if I hadn't have realised that wasn't right for my body at that point, my cancer was so aggressive, I wouldn't be here. That is a fact. I would have been gone within months at that point. So yeah, I do think it's having that little bit more seriousness if you find something to get it checked out. Like you say, rather than just go, oh, it's nothing. That's just me. Oh, I'm too young and I live healthy, that sort of thing. So yeah, I do agree with that, is that take everything seriously. Like that a couple of weeks difference makes a lot of difference when you've got something growing inside your body. So yeah.
Trust in the experts, because we're not experts. I think they know what they're talking about. I think they gave us confidence, they reassured us through, whether it be chemo, radiotherapy or surgery, through the IVF, through the failures, through the testing. They gave us the answers, and then we had to just go and act on that. Just trust in the process and be persistent. Don't give up, and trust in each other.
Yeah, I think trust and love does come a long way. I think when you're going through any kind of treatment, whether it's IVF or health, it's easy for couples to fall apart because it tests you. It does, like mentally, physically. You've got so much going on in your own brain, haven't you, that you can see that couples could easily fall apart when they're going through like a heartbreaking situation. So I would just recommend that people do keep that level head and just keep their feet firmly grounded and try not to get too carried away, but you've got to have that love for each other to get through what you're going through.
And use your support network. We're lucky we've got great close family, great close friends, and it's understanding the time and the need to reach out and lean on them. And whether it just be, can you do some shopping for me today, or can we go and meet up today, or do you want to come around for dinner, or just something that helps you get through.
Yeah. Sometimes a change of scenery, if you're going through a situation where it is testing on a couple, it's just changing that scenery for an hour a day, just to clear your head and then come back to your house refreshed. Because like I say, it can take its toll, and if you're going through IVF, the last thing you want to be doing is entering that when you're not solid, because it is going to test you, and it can break your heart, and you've got to be in a good position mentally to start that process.
But the output can be incredible,
as
you can see, and worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that not everybody's journey ends the same way. So yeah, that there is situations that aren't going to end in a happy ending. But I do think you have to face into that journey with that little bit of hope that one day you might get your happy ending. Yeah.